You know, when we dream about humanity's future out there among the stars, our minds almost always jump to one place, Mars, the red planet. But what if our best shot at a second home isn't Mars at all? What if it's our other, often forgotten neighbor? And what if I told you the answer isn't about landing on a planet, but floating above it?
So let's just get right to it, the big question. Could we, humans, actually live on Venus? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Venus, the planet that's basically a toxic, boiling hot nightmare? The answer seems like it should be an obvious, resounding no way. And honestly, you're not wrong. Well, not completely wrong. Look, if we're talking about actually setting foot on the ground on the surface of Venus, the answer is a hard no. Absolutely, unequivocally not going to happen. But to really get why the real story here is so much cooler, we first have to appreciate just how unbelievably, ridiculously hostile the surface of Venus truly is. Yeah, welcome to what scientists pretty much call the hell planet. Let's do a quick rundown of why trying to land here is, well, a complete death sentence.
First off, the heat. The average temperature on Venus is a staggering 464 degrees Celsius. To give you some perspective, that's hot enough to melt lead. Like solid lead just turns into a puddle. Your oven at home doesn't even get close to that. It's an unimaginable furnace.
Then you've got the pressure. The atmosphere is so incredibly thick and heavy that the pressure crushing down on you is 92 times what it is here on Earth. Stepping onto the surface of Venus would feel like being almost a kilometer deep in the ocean. You'd be squashed in an instant. And, as if that wasn't bad enough, the air is a toxic soup of carbon dioxide, and the clouds are literally made of corrosive sulfuric acid. We've sent probes there, and none of them has survived for more than a couple of hours before being completely cooked and crushed. It's been this way for billions of years. So, bottom line, the ground is a total lost cause. But, and this is a huge but, here's where the whole story takes this fascinating twist. What if the goal was never to touch the ground in the first place?
So, okay, let's just lock this in. We've established the ground is out, it's a total nightmare, no argument there.
But what if you travel about 50 kilometers up, high above that nightmare? Well, up there you find something absolutely shocking. You find a completely different world. Right, up there in that thick layer of clouds, there is this surprising sweet spot, a zone that is, in some really key ways, the most Earth-like environment anywhere else in the solar system. Yes, even more so than Mars.
Now check this out, because this is really the wow moment. On the surface, you've got 464 degrees and 92 atmospheres. Just awful. But go up 50 kilometers into the clouds, the temperature is a pleasant 0 to 50 degrees Celsius. And the pressure? It's about 1 atmosphere, almost exactly like it is on Earth's surface. The gravity is also about 90% of ours. It's unbelievable, right?
Okay, so if this amazing Earth-like zone actually exists, how in the world would we live there? Well, this isn't pure science fiction. The science behind building a city in the clouds is actually surprisingly simple.
The whole idea is based on something called an aerostat habitat. Just think of a giant, city-sized, super high-tech blimp. It's basically a big, sealed structure that uses buoyancy to just float. It floats in the atmosphere the same way a boat floats on the ocean. And this is the most brilliant part. How would you make this giant city float? You don't need helium or some other fancy lifting gas. You just fill the habitat with the exact same air we're breathing right now, a mix of nitrogen and oxygen. Because Venus's atmosphere is so dense and heavy with carbon dioxide, our normal, everyday air is actually lighter. It would float naturally. The breathable air is the balloon. It's just such an elegant solution. Now, as incredible as all that sounds, we do have to bring ourselves back down to Earth for a minute. This is an amazing concept for sure, but it is far from easy. There are huge, almost overwhelming challenges that we'd have to solve first.
So, for starters, you'd be floating in what's basically a permanent jet stream. The winds up there in Venus's upper atmosphere can hit speeds of 100 meters per second. That's over 360 kilometers per hour, a constant planet-circling hurricane. So on top of those insane winds, you're still floating among clouds that have droplets of corrosive sulfuric acid. Your city would need a shield that could withstand that forever. And here's the big one. You're floating. You have zero access to the ground. That means no mining for metals or minerals. Every single thing, every drop of water, every bite of food, every spare part would have to be shipped all the way from Earth or somehow produced on site.
The tech for this? It just doesn't exist yet.
So all of this brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? We've got two planetary neighbors, Mars and Venus, and both of them offer us this tantalizing but deeply, deeply flawed vision for a second human home.
So this is really the choice, isn't it? On one hand, you've got Mars. It gives us solid ground, resources in the soil we can actually use, but in return, we have to deal with weaker gravity and a ton of deadly radiation. On the other hand, you have the clouds of Venus, offering Earth-like gravity, pressure, and great radiation protection thanks to that thick atmosphere. But we'd be cosmic castaways, floating with no ground beneath our feet, totally dependent on a fragile supply line from home. So what's it going to be? Should humanity's future be one spent digging into the red dust of Mars, or one spent floating high above it all in the golden clouds of Venus? You know, right now Mars gets all the attention. But after everything we've just talked about, you really have to wonder, have we been dreaming of the wrong world all along?